All right, so ready to dive into the world of millionaires, figure out how they actually built their wealth. I think we all have this picture in our heads. Mansions, sports cars,
Lavish parties.
the whole 9 yards.
It's the image we see all the time, right? Movies, magazines.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But the reality is, well, it's usually pretty different.
And that's what we're going to get into today, right? We're doing a deep dive into The Millionaire Next Door, which honestly, this book kind of blew my mind when I first read it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the authors, Thomas Stanley and William Danko, they interviewed thousands of millionaires.
Real millionaires.
Not the flashy ones, but everyday people who built their wealth kind of quietly under the radar.
And what's really interesting is what they found.
Okay.
A lot of our assumptions about wealth, completely wrong.
Totally. Get ready for some myth busting, because the first one we're tackling is this whole idea that, to be a millionaire, you got to have a huge income.
Right. More money equals richer.
Right. It seems logical at first.
Very common misconception.
But the book really emphasizes that wealth, it's not about how much you earn, it's about what you do with that money.
It's about your choices.
Exactly. We've all heard that saying, big hat, no cattle. The book uses that perfectly to show the difference between, looking wealthy
versus actually being wealthy.
Right. You could have a 6-figure salary, a fancy car, designer clothes.
But if you're spending it all, living paycheck to paycheck,
You're not building wealth at all.
just accumulating stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The real millionaire next door could be someone you'd least expect.
Your neighbor.
Yeah. Driving an older car, living in a modest house, clipping coupons.
They get it, Real wealth is about assets, investing wisely, living below your means.
It's not about keeping up with the Joneses.
Not at all.
So that brings us to another big idea from the book. Frugality.
Ah, yes.
I'll admit, when I hear frugality, I think about, pinching pennies, giving up all the good stuff.
Right, but the book presents a different perspective. It's not about deprivation. It's being mindful with your money, making choices that align with your long-term goals.
Even if that means maybe skipping that.
That impulse purchase.
Exactly. The book's full of stories about millionaires who are, surprisingly frugal.
In everyday life.
Yeah, one millionaire buys his suits on sale at, get this, JCPenney.
No way.
Another one drives a 10-year-old car even though he could easily afford a brand new one.
See, it's not about being cheap. It's about that discipline.
Yeah, valuing financial security over, fancy stuff.
Exactly.
And there's this one story, it really stuck with me, about this millionaire's wife. She inherited $8 million in stock.
$8 million. Wow.
And guess what? Her spending habits didn't change one bit.
That says it all, doesn't it?
It really does. It's about that mindset, which I think is a huge contrast with, say, people who inherit wealth.
Oh, yeah, those who didn't have to work for it.
Right. They might be more likely to splurge, indulge in those expensive lifestyles.
The book found a real difference between self-made millionaires and inheritors.
Interesting.
Those who built their own wealth are way more likely to be frugal, value that independence.
Okay, so frugality, that's key. But it's not just about saving money, right?
Right. It's about having a plan.
Yeah.
And sticking to it.
And that's where the book dives into planning and budgeting. And they do it in this really interesting way. They introduce these two categories, PAWs and UAWs.
No pause.
Yeah. PAWs are prodigious accumulators of wealth, and UAWs are under accumulators of wealth. I love this because it goes beyond just income.
It's more nuanced.
Right. They use these two doctors as examples, Dr. North and Dr. South, both high earners, both physicians.
Okay.
But Dr. North, the PAW, he's super meticulous, budgets carefully, invests consistently, lives on way less than he earns.
Hard.
Meanwhile, Dr. South, the UAW, he's living it up. Big house, fancy cars, vacations.
Sounds familiar.
But he's constantly worried about money. Feels like he's never earning enough.
That's the thing, that worry, that fear.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
In a way, yeah. His spending keeps him from actually building wealth.
So both doctors, high income, but totally different outcomes because of their mindset and habits.
Totally. Discipline versus, lack of it.
Exactly. And that's a huge lesson for anyone, no matter how much you earn.
It's not just about making more.
It's about that PAW mindset.
Yeah.
Planning, budgeting, being in control of your spending.
That's the foundation.
It is. And that brings us to, this is where things get a little controversial. The book dives into economic outpatient care.
Okay, what's that?
It's basically the financial support that parents give to their adult children.
Oh, like helping with a down payment tuition.
Exactly. Or even just regular cash gifts. Now, On the surface, this seems like a good thing, right? Helping your kids out.
Of course, being supportive.
Yeah, but the book makes this bold claim that economic outpatient care, it can actually hurt their ability to build wealth.
Really?
Yeah, it sounds counterintuitive, right? You'd think giving them money would help them get ahead. But they found that in 8 out of 10 occupations they looked.
Wait, 8 out of 10?
Yeah, the kids who got money from their parents actually had less wealth than those who didn't, even when they had the same jobs.
Wow, that's a big difference.
It is. So why would giving kids a financial boost hold them back?
The book's argument is it creates a dependence, right?
Yeah.
It reduces their motivation to become financially independent on their own.
Makes sense.
Like they have this safety net.
Yeah.
They never really learn to manage money on their own.
And there's this great story about these two brothers, Henry and Josh, got equal gifts from their wealthy parents.
Okay.
Henry became a teacher, lower paying job. Josh, he became a lawyer, high earner.
Big difference there.
But Henry ends up wealthier.
Really?
Yep, because he was more frugal, more independent, more motivated to build his own security.
Didn't rely on those handouts.
Exactly. Which brings up a big question. If this kind of financial support is so common, could it be why some high-income earners aren't actually wealthy?
Interesting. Like they're propped up by that help.
Yeah, never develop the habits they need.
Makes you think.
Definitely challenges some assumptions.
It does.
And then the book gets into what kinds of jobs are most likely to produce millionaires. And it might surprise you.
All right, lay it on me.
Are we thinking doctors? Lawyers?
Wall Street?
Yeah, all the high-profile stuff.
High rollers.
But turns out self-employed business owners, they dominate the list.
Really?
Yeah. Which, when you think about it, makes sense.
You've got control.
Right. Control over your income, potential for growth is way higher.
Not limited by someone else's ceiling.
And what's really interesting is that a lot of these millionaire-making businesses, they're not glamorous at all.
Oh yeah, like what?
Welding shops, paving contractors, even auctioneers.
Wow, you don't hear those on the get-rich-quick schemes.
Not at all. It's about finding your niche, becoming an expert.
Building something of value.
Exactly.
That resonates, you know?
It does. It's not about chasing fancy titles or climbing the corporate ladder. It's about hard work, building something that matters.
Building something you're passionate about.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've busted some myths, right?
Yeah.
You don't need a 6-figure salary to be a millionaire. You don't have to inherit a fortune. It's about frugality, that paw mindset. But what about, like, the actual choices millionaires make? What do they do with their money?
That's where it gets really interesting. The book doesn't just tell us what they don't do. It gets into their habits, how they invest.
Their overall philosophy.
Yeah, their whole approach.
Let's start with something everyone can relate to. Cars. I think we all have this picture of millionaires driving around in luxury sports cars, but the book...
The reality is...
It's different.
It's totally different. The top car brands among millionaires. Ford, Cadillac, Lincoln.
Wait, seriously?
And get this, Jeep.
Jeeps? That's not exactly what comes to mind.
Right. But it makes sense when you think about it. Millionaires, they're not all about status symbols.
They're not trying to impress anyone.
It's about practicality, reliability, getting good value.
And that ties into what the book calls new vehicle prone versus used vehicle prone.
Oh, I like that.
Right. The new vehicle prone, they're always chasing the latest model.
Got to have that new car smell.
Which we know is not the path to wealth.
Not at all. It appreciates so fast.
Used vehicle prone people, though, they're more pragmatic.
They see a car as a tool, a means to an end.
Yeah, just get you from A to B.
Why pay a premium for something that's going to lose value so quickly?
And even within the used vehicle prone group, there are two types: dealer loyalists and shoppers. The loyalists, they stick with one dealership, build that relationship.
Familiar faces.
But shoppers, they're always hunting for the best deal.
Putting in the work.
And guess what? The book found a higher percentage of millionaires are shoppers.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're not afraid to put in the time, negotiate to get the best price.
Even for a big purchase like a car.
They see it as an investment.
Maximize that return.
So there's a pattern emerging here.
What's that?
Millionaires are savvy consumers. They're not just throwing money around, they're thinking long-term, making calculated decisions.
Absolutely. And that same mindset applies to how they approach financial advice.
So they're not falling for those get-rich-quick schemes.
Not at all.
Those late-night infomercials.
Millionaires are incredibly selective about who they trust with their money.
It's got to be someone with a proven track record, someone who aligns with their values.
Yeah, not just anyone can manage their finances.
It's like hiring someone for your business. You do your research.
Exactly. It's a big decision.
It is. And when it comes to investing that money, again, it's a disciplined long-term approach.
You're not day trading.
Not chasing fads, trying to time the market.
Nope, they're in it for the long haul.
Playing the long game.
Exactly. And a good chunk of their wealth, it's actually in their own businesses.
Makes sense. They're entrepreneurs.
It's not just about stocks and bonds. It's about building something you're passionate about.
Investing in yourself?
Exactly. And when they do invest in the stock market, it's usually buy and hold.
No frantic buying and selling.
They're letting those investments grow over time.
Now, the book emphasizes something called minimizing realized income, basically minimizing taxes.
Ah, yes, taxes.
That's
not the most exciting topic.
but crucial.
Absolutely. They have this example, two people, same income, but their net worth is vastly different.
Okay.
The one with the lower net worth, they're paying way more in taxes.
Because they're not structuring their investments the right way.
Exactly. The other person, higher net worth, they've figured out how to minimize that taxable income.
So their wealth grows more efficiently.
Exactly.
It's not just about earning, it's about keeping what you earn.
Yeah, smart tax planning is key.
Now, the book also talks about some of the anxieties that high earners face, and it's not always about struggling to pay the bills.
Right, it's a different kind of stress.
They're worried about maintaining their lifestyle, keeping up with the Joneses.
That constant pressure.
And the book calls this a fear of economic downscaling.
They're afraid of losing their status, their stuff.
That lifestyle they've built.
And it becomes this vicious cycle.
The more you spend, the more you need to earn, the more anxious you get.
Exactly. Millionaires, though, they tend to be less concerned with those things.
They're not driven by that need to impress.
They've built that solid foundation. They live below their means.
They have that peace of mind.
Now, shifting gears a bit, the book also introduces this concept of consumption inoculation.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
It's about teaching kids that material possessions don't equal happiness.
From a young age.
Right. Instilling values of frugality, hard work.
Instead of equating success with stuff.
Exactly. Helps them develop a healthier relationship with money.
Avoid falling into that trap of consumerism.
The book talks about millionaires who raise their kids in modest environments.
Even though they could have given them every luxury.
Right, and those kids often went on to achieve great things.
Because they had that foundation of hard work and responsibility.
They weren't handed everything.
It really shows you that true wealth, it comes from within.
Not from the things you own.
And that leads to a big question. How do millionaires actually instill these values in their kids? How do they break that cycle of entitlement and raise financially responsible kids?
Especially when they have the means to give them everything.
That's a great question, and it's one we'll dig into in the final part of our deep dive. We've been talking a lot about self-made millionaires, but what about when that wealth gets passed down? Do their kids automatically inherit those same money smarts?
That's the big question, right? You'd think growing up surrounded by wealth would give them an advantage.
A head start.
But the book, it shows us it's more complicated than that.
It's not always a recipe for disaster then. Like, give kids a ton of money and they'll just blow it.
Well, it's not always that simple. It's not just about kids inheriting millions and then poof, it's all gone. The book really gets into those challenges that children of millionaires face.
It's not always easy street, huh?
Not always.
One thing that comes up again is this idea of economic outpatient care. We talked about it before, that financial support parents give.
Yeah, helping them out.
It seems well-intentioned, but could it actually backfire?
The authors, they make a strong argument that even though it comes from a good place, constantly bailing kids out can actually hurt them in the long run.
How so?
Well, if you never have to worry about money.
You never learn to manage it.
Exactly. They hit the real world without those essential skills, and it can be a rough landing.
Like they've been living in a bubble.
Kinda, yeah.
The book even has examples of kids from wealthy families who, even with that head start, they make bad investments, get into debt.
Some even lose their entire inheritance.
Wow. So that safety net can almost become a trap.
In a way, yeah. It prevents them from learning those important lessons about financial responsibility.
Makes sense. The book also looks at family businesses and how passing those down can be tricky.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other dynamic.
So many millionaires are business owners.
They've built something from the ground up.
Poured their heart and soul into it.
And naturally, they want to see it continue.
Leave a legacy.
But finding the right successor, that's crucial.
It's not just about handing it to the oldest child.
Not at all. You need someone who's passionate, who has the skills, who's willing to put in the work.
And maybe that's not always a family member.
Sometimes it's better to bring in someone from outside.
That can be tough though, right? Letting go of that control,
It is. The book really emphasizes the importance of open communication.
making a plan, a transition.
And not just the legal financial stuff, but the emotional side too.
Oh, absolutely. Money can cause so much tension in families.
It can.
Yeah.
So having those clear expectations, those roles defined,
A fair process.
it makes a huge difference.
But going back to those core values we talked about, hard work, discipline, being responsible with money,
Right.
can millionaires actually pass those down, even if they are giving their kids financial support?
That's a great question. And the book offers some good advice. It's not about hiding money from kids.
Pretending it doesn't exist.
Right. It's about being open and honest.
Teaching them what it means to earn a dollar.
Give them an allowance, make them work for extra money.
Teach them to budget, save.
Exactly. It's about shaping their relationship with money, not just how much they have.
And parents can do that no matter how much money they have.
Absolutely. The book also talks about leading by example.
Kids see everything.
They do. If parents are always spending, never saving, well,
They'll pick up on those habits.
but if they see their parents being mindful, making smart choices,
Prioritizing that long-term security.
they're much more likely to do the same.
So the big takeaway here is that building wealth, it's not about luck or inheritance,
It's about a mindset, a set of values
a way of life.
that prioritizes financial responsibility, hard work, thinking ahead.
And that's something that'll help anyone.
Whether they're starting with a trust fund or building from nothing,
It's about giving them the knowledge, the tools to navigate the world of money.
make good choices, achieve that financial security.
And it makes me think about something the book doesn't really go into. It's focused on financial wealth. But what about the impact of this economic outpatient care on relationships?
Interesting.
Could giving too much financial support actually hurt those relationships, create a sense of entitlement?
Maybe even stunt their personal growth.
Exactly. Maybe there's a balance to find between supporting them and encouraging them to be self-reliant.
Giving them the space to figure things out on their own.
Let them make mistakes, learn, and build their own success.
It's about more than just money, right?
So true. Well, there you have it, a deep dive into The Millionaire Next Door. It really challenges how we think about wealth, and it gives us some great insights into those habits and choices that can lead to success.
And remember, it's a journey.
Not a destination.
It's about making those smart choices day after day, year after year.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new and are feeling inspired to start building your own path to financial freedom.